Well, we're back again, and I know it can be a lot to take just listening to it, because as I listen to myself read it, it is still mind-boggling to me that they got away with all of it. They were so cruel and so unkind to this perfectly nice little girl. And it continued like that. The cult made magazines, and then they made movies, 8mm, of various things. And the next thing I'm going to read to you is the last movie that they made, called The Mortician's Dream. Yes.
And after that is the film. Oh, sorry.
I knew that, yeah. Okay, this is The Mortician's Dream, and I'm going to take it out of here. So, now The Mortician's Dream happens in my sophomore year, and for most people that's when you're 14 or 15. And it happened in the fall. My sister was away at college, and I was home with mommy. Yeah. Okay, this is The Mortician's Dream. I remember being so cold my teeth stopped chattering. It was dark and cold. The metal drawer was closed and I was on the inside. There were just slivers of light coming in by my feet, just enough light to make out the shapes of the other bodies. It was another of her movies. We had had the doctor, the dentist, and now the mortician. They had the cameras set up in the morgue and had already started filming. I had to wear a red and black baby doll set that looks like it came out of Frederick's of Hollywood window. Frederick's is my personal choice for tacky store of the universe. The police had came and left after mommy threw a raincoat over me and told them I was screaming because I had to identify a dead friend. No, I screamed. The doctor explained to the cop that I was having a hard time, that I can't, yeah. Yeah, even that last one, it's a very harsh light. Sorry about that. Okay. The police had come and left. Mommy threw a raincoat over me and told them I was screaming because I had to identify a dead friend. No, I screamed. The doctor explained to the cop that I was having a hard time accepting reality and they would sedate me after the identification was over. The doctor asked him to leave. My mother had my head clamped to her bosom. She pinched my shoulder hard as soon as the door closed. They pulled the coat off me and made me get back on the table, arranging the outfit and some man parts around me. The doctor said we were ready, and mommy started filming again. Then he shut the drawer. It had been a long time. I hate being cold like this. It is so hard to get out of my body. The light that could finally get me out of here for good was nowhere to be seen, and the other bodies weren't moving, so I took hope in that. The cold air burned with each breath, but finally my breathing was slowing down. At last, the dizziness came, and I started to see a flicker of light. My muscles were cramped like the metal the drawer was made of. As the light got brighter, it bothered me less. as I wondered how much longer this could last. I kept praying to die soon. Death couldn't come too soon for me. I was not comfortable hating my mother, but the anger and hate were finally extinguished by the cold of the drawer and the flicker of the light. When I died before, the hate was always the first thing to be left behind. Next goes the pain, and then the light floods through me. When this happens, I finally feel safe, loved, and protected. It was my third time to go through the tunnel, and finally, at last, I was on my way. My blue body had stopped shaking, and at last it no longer bothered me to have the man parts in my hand. I spat out whatever they had put in my mouth a while back, but whoever they belonged to must have been really mad. The twinkling light, so gentle and warm, was surrounding and suffusing me. The hatred was gone, the pain gone, the warmth animating me. I yearned to see who would greet me, but there was nobody there. How disappointing. On my last two, people I loved had greeted me. I had emerged on the far side of the meadow where there were beautiful, tiny yellow and purple violets. While looking at them, I saw a teenage girl on the other side of the meadow. We moved towards each other. I wondered why no one was there to greet me. She told me I wasn't supposed to be there yet and that no one was expecting me. I hoped that didn't mean I had to go back again. She said, yes, I did have to go back. Why, I wondered. I thought the third time was supposed to be the charm. She said that there was work I still had to do. I was not going back into that frozen vault. I can't do it again. She said she would take me part of the way back. I still didn't want to go. I'd lost this discussion twice before and figured the outcome would be the same. She wrapped her warm, soft, strong arms around me, and once again we entered the light. Just as we were parting, she going back to the light and me to the frozen drawer vault, the drawer opened. Keep the cameras running, she's good and blue. My mother continued to film while the doctor rearranged the body parts and took more pictures. Then Mommy said, I don't think she's breathing. The doctor held his hand over my nose and mouth, and then he started pounding on my chest hard. He told Mommy she may be gone. Mommy came out from behind the camera, holding my hand, my poor special girl. There were tears starting to stream down her face. At that moment, when he got my heart going again and we were slammed back into the body, everything hurt, every beat of my heart, each breath. When I opened my eyes, she looked at me so lovingly and said, I'm so glad my special girl is back with me. And then she kissed my still blue hand. I caught my breath, looking into her eyes. I said with a conviction and intensity I didn't know I had, you bitch. She gasped, dropped my hand, and slapped me across the face. I laughed at her. The doctor started spraying me with a high-pressure hose. The water was stinging my skin like a million bees. The water was as cold as the drawer. When I could walk again, Mommy made me get dressed in my regular clothes and told me to apologize to her and the doctor. I tried, but all I could do was laugh at her. I had never laughed at her before. I think it's because the girl from heaven got stuck in me. I was glad for me, but sorry for her. When we got home, I got out opening the garage door. It was late and cold, and my bones ached a lot, like the thawing process hurt. After I pulled in, I shut the garage and we walked in. I wanted to take a shower and wash my hair. Since we were in the house alone, she started screaming at me. "You just go to the bathroom and get in bed," her yelling continued as I attempted to brush my teeth. "You're clean enough, get in bed now and wait for me." She came in with a drink in her hand, holding the small suitcase ECT unit in the other. Pulling my desk chair over by the bed, she took a long drink and plugged in the machine. Explaining how horribly I had behaved, she told me to sit up and then put the ring on my head. I asked her if she'd ever tried it on herself. Slapped her stinging hand against my face again. "What has gotten into you? I won't tolerate this rudeness from you." She screamed, tightening the screws into my head. "This will straighten you out." She flipped the switch on high and I went into convulsions immediately. Her laughter was now filling the room. "Don't ever speak to me that way again. How dare you?" Come on now, just 3 sets of 3, 9 good, long, intense sets of 3 convulsions, all with the background music of my mother's laughter. I woke up later that night, throwing up bright green bile. My head ached viciously. My body was hurting, cold and tense as metal. I knew what to do. Change my nightie and sheets, but don't start the washer or flush the toilet because it might wake her up, and we didn't want to wake her up. So I tiptoed into the dark and even brushed my teeth an extra time. I went back to bed until it was time to get up, but I still smelled like the frogs in biology. I woke up throwing up again so I didn't have to face first period Spanish 1 that day. When Mommy left for work, I took some of her pills and a really long bath to get the frog smell off me, and then I watched my soaps. And that was my last near-death experience. Yes.
So we're at...
Now we're at the big one. Okay. Can we pause it so I can...
You can drink your water. That's okay. Please drink your water.
The summer of 1966, I was 15, and my sister was a counselor at Camp Maria Stella, which was a camp that was run by the Sisters of Social Service. And my sister was up there in the pre-counselor mode and was gone the whole summer. And this is when my mother really went nuts. I was...
Oh, sorry, buddy. I'm sorry.
Oh, the pumpkin.
He's okay.
Yeah.
I was just trying to get more comfortable. It's my fault.
You gotta give him more room.
It's okay. I've got Cleo coming over too now.
Okay, and this is The Last Thing, Part 1.
He's okay.
Okay.
Is he okay?
And yeah,
Okay.
I was 15, going into my junior year in high school. Still a virgin as far as I knew, because all of the ECT really did block my memories until Amelia turned 3. Okay, The Last Thing, Part 1. It wasn't too hot outside yet, but today it would get there. I had been watering the geraniums in the backyard. Susan was a CIT, counselor in training, at Camp Maria Stella that summer. It was a camp run by the Sisters of Social Service that gave us each 2 free weeks because of whatever Mommy told them. While packing for her 6 weeks in training, Susan had tried to take all the underwear, and I was still mad about that. We knew who each pair belonged to because Mommy had put an N or an S on the back of each pair in bright red nail polish. Boy, was that embarrassing in gym class. I have to tell you one of my favorite jokes. I always liked it too, or one of my mother's favorite jokes. She thought I complained too much, so she would joke, "You'd complain if they hung you with a new rope." I tried not to keep complaining, but with the ammunition she gave me, like high school gym wasn't bad enough without a bright N painted on the back of my butt. I finished watering, sprayed off the porch, left the hose under one of the big pine trees in the yard. I turned the hose down low and went inside to find out what else she needed me to do. After I came in from watering, I asked what else she wanted me to do, and she said to shut all the windows and curtains all over the house. I wondered if this were some new trick to keep the house cooler, so I did it. I thought it just makes the house hot, dark, and still. As I finished, she called me. "Oh, sweetie, just one more thing, and this is the last thing I'll ask you to do." I looked at her, still damp from watering, and said, and then she said, "Don't even try to make me feel guilty." I think maybe my just standing there in damp shorts did, and a shirt did that, but I still didn't know what she was talking about. Then she told me I was lucky to get to help my family and have so many men paying attention to me. She seemed jittery and scary as she got off the couch, where most days she would need to lay down after work and stay supervising. She went into the kitchen and came back with 3 small blue pills and some water. Mommy took 1 pill herself, then told me to take the other 2. She said they would make me feel better. I said I felt fine. She got that look that I would do anything to avoid, so I just took them. I was sitting at the dinner table when she walked up behind me and told me to lean my head back while she put the drops in my eyes. They make your eyes look deep and dark. The drops made my eyes really light, sensitive, and blurry, so I was glad the house was dark. She sent me to my room to get into the clothes she had laid out for me. She couldn't be serious. It was black panties with feathers going out from the crotch, so it looked like a seashell, with a black push-up bra and more feathers. I reminded myself that this was the last thing she would ever ask me to do. Later, I reminded her too. Her friends arrived. They started moving stuff into the house. The camera, a set of 3 stairs, boards, rope. It looked like new rope, and for some bizarre reason, it was nicer to be hung with new rope. More hygienic, I guess. I saw the doctor, the stud, and someone I'd never seen before, a young black man. They were in the living room setting up. The doctor came into the room where I was sitting on the bed in the bra and panties. He told me to lie down and spread my legs. He was going in for one more dive. This was no surprise, but it wasn't really a problem either. The drugs having taken effect, I said out loud, "The old man gives it one more try." His tail, I wasn't supposed to know the word penis yet, shrank up and he got mad. It may not have been smart, but it was fun. When he came out of my bedroom, Mommy asked him how I looked. He gave her his usual answer of "she'll do." Later he added, "Couldn't you have gotten more weight off her?" Overhearing all this in my bedroom in the stupid feathered underwear, a great chill went down my spine. The outfit explains it why for the last 4 months I had to drink Metrocal, the latest diet fad. The stuff was revolting, like having to drink vitamin-flavored mucus. Mommy would watch me drink it, so no more dumping it down the sink. That was why my feathered outfit fits so well. She came into the bedroom and told me to sit at the table. She seemed all giddy and excited. There was a pile of notebook paper and a pen, and then she told me it was time for me to write her a letter. I began to wonder, but the pills had me sort of moving through space. It needed to start. "Dear Mommy, I love you so much. I'm so sorry, but I just couldn't live with." A number of different suggestions were tried in various drafts, more drafts for spelling and grammar, and it took forever because it was so hard to see, but I finally got it right. They all ended the same, with how much I loved her, both her and Susan, and how I hoped they would forgive me. I signed the note, "Love, Nancy." The writing thing was something I wasn't too good at. About then, I was really thirsty and asked Mommy if I could have a diet soda, my favorite being black cherry. Surprisingly, she said yes. The doctor interrupted, saying, "No, it'll just bloat her up. She can't have it." Now they have to cross-check everything. She had her check, her list of errands, new winter return, and then she wanted to say goodbye. Her goodbyes consisted of sitting across from me at the table and telling me, "I love you, sweetheart. Pray for me always. Be good today, and remember it's the last thing I'll ever ask of you." And then she thanked me. I asked if she wanted her note. "Not yet, honey." She got up and told me to give her a big hug. I didn't want to in that weird outfit. It didn't matter. I hugged her anyway. Right after she drove out, the doctor came into the family room to get me. He pinched my cheeks to make them rosier. He told me to go to the living room, where he introduced me to the new cameraman as the meat. When the doctor said that, I thought I saw the cameraman's eyes widen, but who knows with the drops. He looked cute from what I could tell. Then I turned to sit on the couch. Next to me were 3 nooses. The two on the left had an extra knot. The new cameraman, usually the doctor did it himself, was behind the camera checking the bright hot lights and filming angles. The stud, as I referred to him, was getting primed and ready. The doctor was figuring out the takes. I was waiting for the last thing she'd ever asked me to do to be over. What felt like an incredibly long time later, we were on the last take. I'd had it. I was exhausted. Most of the things they were doing weren't new, but hanging from the rope, they were more intense. The eye drops were beginning to wear off. and I looked around the room. I caught the cameraman's eye. The rope was really getting tight. Still shooting, the doctor was playing with himself, gross out. My head felt like it might explode, and the cameraman reached down his foot and pulled out a gun. I'm not being set up for this murder. Drop her now. The stud who had been hanging on the rope around my neck let go. I fell to the floor on my mother's gold carpeting. It was a very popular color in the 60s. Now everything started swimming around me. The cameraman started telling them what to do, and to my amazement, they were doing it. He made them get their stuff, cameras and all, out of the house. By now, everyone had their pants on and were really moving quickly. The cameraman kept the gun on the doctor the entire time. I was still on the floor with my head exploding. Once they had left, he came over and asked if I was okay. I said yes, and anyway, it was the last thing Mommy would ever ask me to do. He said, yeah, right, and told me to go get dressed. I asked what I should wear. He said, just go get dressed. I don't think he liked the feathers either. I put on clean end panties, a bra, and a dress that I had made in home economics. The dress was a brown and black plaid with a brown band around the hem. He asked me if I was okay. I said yes, but I needed to vacuum the living room. I went to the bathroom and my panties were all bloody, so I put on a Kotex and clean ones. When I got back out, I wasn't feeling right and he was gone. My head ached, my cramps were amazing, and my neck was wobbly. I heard Mommy's car drive around the driveway. She came in the front door, which only opened halfway, and then shut it behind her. She was looking around. When she saw me, her expression was stunned and shocked. Somehow at that moment, I realized she had not expected to see me standing. I was infuriated. I told her that she said it was the last one, and it was. She stammered at the front door opened behind her, and the cameraman came back. He told me to get a blanket. I did, the red wool one Nana had given me for Christmas when I was little. That year, all the grandchildren had gotten the same thing, and we really liked it. Then he told me to get on the floor of his back seat and put the blanket over me. Mommy was yelling now about kidnapping and how much she loved me and to come back. She continued yelling that I was nothing but a nigger lover anyway. He didn't listen to her. He started the car and drove off. I told him it was hot and asked if I could sit up and take off the blanket. He said no, it was too dangerous under the circumstances. I didn't get it, but I've never been too bright. We finally stopped when we got to his apartment on the second floor of an old house that was divided into apartments. He wrapped me in the blanket and carried me up the stairs. On the landing of the stairs was a stained glass window with the bright afternoon sun shining through it. It would look like a church. I told him I thought it was beautiful. He told me to be quiet until we got inside. He unlocked the door and carried me to the couch where he gently laid me down. He went back to the door and locked all the locks. There were 3 in a chain. Next, he took off his ankle holster. I'd never seen one before. Removed the clip from his gun and put all 3 in the top drawer of the metal cabinet. He told me I must never touch it and shook his finger at me. I agreed. I would have agreed to anything. Now I couldn't walk or even hold my head up by myself. He said it was the shock was wearing off, and he phoned a friend. I said, excuse me, but he replied, just call me Greg. Greg, I tried it out. I'm bleeding on your couch. He got me a towel, but he wasn't even mad. I wanted a diet soda, but he didn't have any. So we drank metallic tasting water from plastic glasses. It helped my throat a little, but I couldn't swallow. His friend came over with the doctor bag. He said I didn't look good. I thought I looked nice in my dress. He said with all the blood I was losing, they had to stop the bleeding fast. Greg said they were gonna sew me up. I said, no way, that Mommy said it was the last time, and it was the last time, and nobody was gonna mess with me again. Greg said, okay, how about a shot just to make you feel better? Greg held me gently while his friend gave me a shot just to make me feel better. Later, it was dark, and I woke up in Greg's bed wearing only his t-shirt. I was covered with sweat and had stitches in my vagina and my bottom. The TV was on in the living room, and I could hear a man's voice I thought I recognized. Greg told me it was the Reverend Martin Luther King. I couldn't lift my head, so Greg carried me into the other room. He propped me up with pillows and stuff so I could sort of sit up. He wanted me to eat and made us soup and crackers. It was tomato soup. I wasn't drinking it, no way. It looked like a cup of blood to me. I just nibbled the crackers and drank my water. He drank the soup, mumbling something about what a crazy white chick I was, and then adding, why wouldn't she be? I was hurting a lot again, but couldn't swallow the pills. So he got out this funny stuff and taught me how to smoke it. I coughed and sputtered, but soon felt sleepy again. I lay listening to Martin Luther King on the tiny black and white television and thought, this is good. The eye drops were worn off now, and a really cute, nice guy was taking care of me. The best part of it all was that Mommy didn't know where I was and couldn't do anything about it. I remembered the last thing she said to me and thought it might come true. This is part 2 of the last thing. It was really hot that morning, and Greg had closed up the blinds and windows. I felt like a chicken in the oven. He said if I felt like chicken after he got out of class, he would go and get us chicken wings for lunch. The wings are so good, crunchy and juicy, like good deep fried food can be. Greg said it's the opposite of Metrocal, it's real food. It made my face greasy when I ate it. The other day he brought us Chinese egg rolls, and they were great. He knows how to feed a person so they really feel full. After lunch, we take a nap and sleep and play. He is teaching me the difference between making love and abuse. I think of it like the difference of night in a deep, dark cave with no candle and a bright, sunny day. It's like the peak of a mountain with a beautiful view or the depth of an erupting volcano. It's sort of like what we do is so new and delicious. Greg smells wonderful. His skin has a sweetness, and he never has that acrid smell. And he doesn't drink alcohol, so he doesn't stink like that. I can't wait to lay my head on his chest and listen to his heart beating. Being with Greg is better than any of my soaps. I wish my soaps were on now. I like the ones on Channel 7. One Life to Live, All My Children in General Hospital. It's lucky the TV gets Channel 7. I watch TV while he does his homework. He spends a lot of time doing math with a slide rule. He is so cool. He did his homework with it yesterday, and when he was done, he decided to clean his guns. So I got to learn about guns too. The holster goes around his ankle, but he can take it places. He showed me the clip with the bullets and let me put the bullets in the clip and the clip back into the gun. He was the most exciting man I had ever met, and he's so cute. Then he showed me how to hold it, cock it, and aim. We put the silencer on it too. It made it look like it had a very extra long nose. When it was time to put it away, he put on the safety and made sure it wasn't cocked. So he put it back in the drawer and shut the cupboard. He looked me straight in the eye and said, "I don't have to tell you never to touch it." I agreed he sure didn't. I would remember. I remembered it when he was leaving for school and to stay inside. He didn't like it when I went out to look at the stained glass window, but it was just so beautiful. Okay, I won't go out of the apartment. Yes, I'll keep everything closed up and be quiet. There's somebody at the door, but his key isn't working. "Greg, do you want me to open it?" "Yeah, open the door." But it wasn't Greg's voice. It was one of those voices that makes all the hair on your neck stand up and goosebumps all over you. Even as I walked over to the cabinet to take the gun out, I knew I didn't want to use it. I wanted to keep my promise to Greg. I didn't want to feel my finger on the trigger again. Then a voice yelled at me in my head, "God didn't give St. Michael a sword for decorative purposes." And I thought about the other kids they might do stuff to. I didn't want to shoot anyone. I wanted to be better than they are. Then St. Michael told me once again not to think about myself. I knew I could, but I still didn't want to. There were two men out there, and I recognized both their voices. My stomach was turning. I saw the cabinet and figured I needed the gun. So I got it, took off the safety, and cocked it like Ray showed me. The door broke in spite of the locks. The cracking wood, the men were calling Mommy's special girl while they quietly broke the door open and let themselves in, shutting it behind them. They came in. I was standing by the sink in my underwear and Greg's t-shirt, holding a gun on them. First, they tried to be sweet. "Your mommy misses you so much. You can't do this to your mom. Your mom needs her special girl." Then the stud said, "It's not like she's got the balls to use it," lunging towards me. I shot him in the chest. The blood was bubbling out of the hole in his chest, and he fell down on his back. The doctor was so mad he called me a little cunt and bent over to check his friend, but he was reaching for my ankle too. I shot him in the back of the head. His brain kind of exploded on the wall. There was blood and skin and muck everywhere, but they just kept breathing. I kept hoping they would die and stop making the sounds of gurgles and groans coming out of them. I didn't think they could hurt me anymore. I looked at the stud. He was looking at me. When our eyes met, he tried to say, "Sorry, kid," but he sounded like he was gargling, but his mouth moved. The doctor was moaning and groaning. I didn't know what to do, so I decided I had to give them their last rites and send them to God. So I did. I gave them each their last rites in their own blood, putting some on their forehead, hands, and feet, forgiving their sins and sending them to God. With that done, I sat down on the chair facing the door and waited for a really long time. But finally and slowly, they stopped breathing. There was blood everywhere, and I was so scared. I remembered the feeling of my finger on the trigger. I felt like my head was about to explode. So many thoughts and so loud. All the voices in my head were scared. I sat quietly and waited, but I didn't know what for. When Greg pushed the door open and saw us. I forgot who he was and held the gun on him too. Then I told him, Mommy said it was the last one and nobody was ever going to mess with me again. He said, okay, real quiet and sweet. He asked if he could shut the door. Okay, I said. Then he asked me to put the gun on the floor. He said, look, they're done. Put the gun on the floor and no one will hurt us. So I did, mostly because he said us. He came and got his gun and wrapped it in a kitchen towel and put it in the drawer. Then I started to shake really badly and cry. We have to get you clean and dressed, he said. He helped me shower and wash the blood off, helping me with everything. I just stood there and shook. He brought my clothes into the bathroom and shut the door. He helped me get dressed and sat me down on the toilet to make me talk. He said I was wrong to think I killed them, that he had done it. I had just made a mistake. That's all, it's okay, but he's the one who did it. Then he wrapped my blanket around me, picked me up and carried me through the living room and shut the door behind me. Walking to his car, he kept rocking and petting me, calling me his poor child. I kept inhaling his scent, which was a comfort to me. We drove to his mother's house. We went in the back door. It was a pretty house. She had nice flowers. I was still shaking. She looked at him and told him loud she wanted to know what the hell was going on, but first she had to take care of me. She gave me 2 aspirin, something to calm my nerves, and milk. She said I could go down into her room and watch my soaps. When I woke up, my soaps were over, but it wasn't dark yet. But I heard Greg's mom yelling into the phone that she had killed 2 of those bastards, and if anything happened to her, she was next. She sounded mean. I wouldn't mess with her. She's tough. Then her voice calmed down and they talked for a long while about college and them watching and grocery stores. After they hung up, she called me, child, come here. So of course I did. Yes, ma'am, I said. She told me to sit down next to her and I did. She told me I had to go back to my mother's house and finish college and finish high school and then go to college. I really wanted to stay with Greg. She said it was not possible, that mine would be the only white face in the neighborhood, and Compton was no place for a child like me, and there was no arguing allowed. She told me I had better go to college and could build a good life. She smelled so good. I could have curled up in her lap forever. I went to the bathroom, brushed my teeth and hair, and got ready. Greg got back. He looked mad, but agreed to his mother's plan. He said it was time for us to go. He didn't say anything. We drove for a long time, right past the apartment. Then he started telling me the things to remember, like the difference between making love and making abuse, the parts of a gun, what real good food tastes like. We drove for a while and then he pulled into the Alpha Beta parking lot. He told me we were going in. We got inside and he said to go down aisle 5. What for, I asked. Just do it, he hissed. His eyes filled with tears. So did I. Walking down aisle 5, Mommy saw me. Okay, honey, I've been looking for you. Here, let's go home. I looked for Greg, but he was gone. I was hers again. We drove home in silence. She made us a nice dinner of hamburger patties and baked potato. She told me to take a shower. I told her I was clean. She said, okay, just for tonight. I'm so glad you're home. She had me take an aspirin and 1 blue pill and watch TV until I got tired. She woke me and told me to go to the bathroom and to bed, and so I did. I remember waking up later with Mommy putting something around my head. Then suddenly I was having electricity rip through my brain again and again. Oh my God, again. She reminds me it's 3 sets of 3. Oh my God, how did I get here, I thought. Then 2 more sets of 3. She kept the switch on longer each time, till the convulsions took over even when she turned it off. That scared her, seeing me standing in the hall. This morning I woke with a terrible headache and all the muscles in my right side of my neck and shoulders so tight I could scream. Mommy is still asleep, so I tiptoe in and take a blue pill. Oh well, I may as well take 2, they're small. I crawl into bed and sleep. The next thing I remember, she was waking me up and told me we have to have breakfast. Cream of wheat, lumpy as usual. I don't like it, but it's a lot easier to eat it than to argue. She said I had been sick for a while and was having bad dreams again. I couldn't remember much, but every time I went in the living room, I got a really creepy feeling and all hairs on my neck stood up. Yeah, there's one more story which I'm not sure I'm up to reading, and that is of the cult abortion they did when they found out I was pregnant. Even though the cult leader was dead, there were other cult members who participated in it. Mm-hmm. And a cult abortion is different from a regular abortion because it's done at midnight. It's done with all the vestments and garments of a priest. I was tied to the table.
I would be honored to read it if you would allow me.
Oh, sure.
I would be honored.
Sure, yeah. Did we just put it over there?
Okay, so Nancy ended up getting pregnant from her rescuer, Craig.
Yeah.
And this is one of the final stories, and then Nancy will be finishing
her contribution.
Yeah,
for today.
Okay. My mother was the biggest power in my life. She had looks, brains, and cunning. She was the first person in the family to graduate from college, Cal Berkeley. She was very proud of this. Well-dressed and beautifully groomed people would say what a lady she was. We, Susan and I, learned proper table manners, how to write thank you notes, and to cross her meant wrath. Susan, my older sister by 2 years, was really smart too. She would graduate from college, my mother told me. Perhaps if you go to college, you can have a nice man to marry. My job was not to be bright, but to be nice, helpful, and competent. I always thought of Susan being like Mary in the Bible, and I was Martha. Martha was hardworking, competent, nice enough, but often complaining. Susan and my mother would get into terrible fights. Susan was never as afraid of her as I was. These fights would escalate our already tense house to a truly volatile state. This was Susan's first semester at Cal State Fullerton. She was living on campus, so things around the house were generally calmer. I was starting my junior year at Valencia High School and got to take a foods class with Mr. Hedges, who I loved. The year had just started and I was enjoying not having mommy at the same school. She was out on disability because of her spinal fusion had broken and she was in a lot of pain. I was being really good cooking, cleaning, and yard work like a champ. One Friday night, I didn't have a date like usual. We had a light dinner. Light because mommy didn't want me to get any fatter. Mommy made me take one of her blue pills and go to bed early on Friday night, no less. Late around 11:30, she was shaking me awake. I had to hurry. We had someplace to go. I got up and started to get dressed. She said, "No, just go put on this white robe and no underwear." It was weird, but I was too tired and drugged to argue. We got in the car in an old blue Chevy Impala that my sister had dented on each side and drove down Harbor Boulevard. I fell asleep, so Mommy woke me up and told me we were going in. It was a medical complex with lots of offices. All but one was completely dark. We parked and she walked me to the door, explaining that I would have a small procedure done. I started to ask questions, but she pinched my shoulder hard and told me no questions allowed. When we went inside, a man came out of the back room in a black robe and told my mother to come back in 45 minutes. I wanted her to stay, but she left. The man took me into the examining room and told me to get up on the table. I did, and then I noticed 2 more men with robes, with vestments and sashes. My stomach was in my throat, but I knew I had no choices. Circling the table, they tied my hands to the table, then pulled out the stirrups and tied my feet with their sashes. They walked to the head of the table and gagged me with their vestments, tying my head flat on the table. Circling the table, they lit candles and incense and began saying their weird prayers that sounded like gibberish to me. They then uncovered an ornament silver platter with a matching bowl. Next, they got out a tray of instruments that looked truly terrifying. Inserting the speculum, they explained that I could have no drugs because I was unworthy and had not behaved properly. Next, he inserted something into me. I tried to scream, so another man held his hand over my gagged mouth. The sound of the scraping was like nails on a chalkboard. After the scraping was done, they passed the bowl around each of the 3 drinking from my blood. The blood dribbled down their faces, making them look even more frightening. Then they started to untie my hands, making me sit up so I could participate. The man who had done the scraping put his hands into the bowl of my blood and fished out a tiny being, no bigger than the last 2 digits of my little finger, and put it in the center of the silver tray. Now it hit me. I was pregnant. This was my baby, my beautiful boy. This is your child who you must freely give to us. I looked at it, holding the tray closer and closer to my face, since they took my glasses too. He was so tiny, small, and vulnerable. I looked at them, covered in my blood. There was a voice in my head telling me gently and firmly, "Do this in remembrance of me." So quickly I swallowed him, the son that could have been mine, knowing that Jesus was there for him and praying he was there for me too. That made the men really angry. They punched me in the stomach and tried to put their fingers down my throat, but I clenched my jaw. I refused to vomit you back into their presence. Mommy was knocking at the door. "Is it time yet?" she asked. They told her what I did and refused to pay her. Boy, was I in trouble. She dragged me out to the car, still in bloody white robe, and told me to get into the back seat. My cramps were horrible, so I had curled into a fetal position while she got something out of the trunk. She got into the back seat with a tire iron and started beating me with it. It hurt a lot, but not nearly as much as what they had already done to me. She kept hissing at me in a terrifying low growl that I thought I was a better mother, that she thought I was a better mother than she was. She got into the back seat with the tire iron and started beating me with it. It hurt a lot, but not nearly as much as what they had already done to me. She kept hissing at me in a terrifyingly low growl that I thought I was a better mother than she was. She was right, I did. She made me take more pills when we got home and told me to get out of her sight and never cross her again. She poured herself a good stiff drink after what I had put her through and waited until I was asleep. I awoke to her putting the electrical hat her name for the electroconvulsive therapy unit on my head. She smiled. Just 3 sets of 3, she laughed. The electricity burned through my brain, causing longer and longer convulsions. I think I had passed out, thank God, but she wanted me to be there for all of them and kept going once I had come to again. So the memories of that night were firmly, or so she thought, erased. The next morning, Mommy didn't feel good and neither did I. I brought her coffee, juice, and a piece of her Van de Cramps coffee cakes I found in the kitchen. While I took her breakfast in bed, I used the opportunity to help myself to her pills. A pink and 2 blue. They helped, but never quite enough. My period had started, so I changed my sheets, started the laundry, got dressed in clean clothes, and went back to bed. I knew only one thing that morning, that I wanted to be eating fried chicken and watching my soaps.
And that's it.
Well, so I'm sure everyone is really curious how you fully got out of everything. So we'll wrap up the interview if you have the energy left in you. Just telling them how she ended up getting out of all of this.
I was accepted to Cal Poly Pomona. Didn't have a very good grade average in high school. ECT can do that to you. And I decided that I would go to Cal Poly because they had a home economics department and it was one subject I knew I was good at. So I went and made my way through 4 years of college in 4 years and was very proud of myself, and then got a teaching job in 72, and that was pretty rare in those days.
So your mom really just kind of let go of you after all of that, after all those things that happened. She stopped doing what she was doing.
She demanded a level of attention that I went along with in terms of birthdays and Christmas and that kind of stuff. But she never stopped belittling me.
Right. She stopped shocking you, and you went off to college. You were able to
Right.
get out
and
go to college and somehow
Yes.
pull your life together.
Yes.
Yes.
And the electroconvulsive therapy, while hideous to endure, may have done some good in terms of fighting the depression that
Yes.
would have come otherwise.
Yes. It kind of protected you until you were ready to remember.
Mm-hmm.
But it's never been easy.
No.
Never.
No, it's not easy knowing that your mother wanted you dead.
I can't even fathom that.
I mean, it's just one of those things that
You've lived through.
you live through it and then you deal with it. You can't deal with it while you're living through it because it's too much.
Well,
Yes.
we are all so grateful for your vulnerability and your strength and those near-death experiences. I was so grateful for those experiences.
Oh, they were all wonderful. Just wonderful. I mean, the Weavers, I thought, were just...
Yes.
And the clackety sound, I mean, I can hear it now.
It's like the Gotan monks in the northern India. They sing these chants to bring people that want to commit suicide back. They do this all the time for people that are suffering.
Suicide.
Anyone that's suffering and that is on the way to the light, and if they're not meant to go, those chants bring them back.
Wow.
So, but you had your own very powerful, unique experiences that Christ, the Weavers, and the strong woman.
Yes. The strong woman.
Yes. Who gave you
Go.
the strength. Yes.
Yes. She gave me strength and vocabulary.
Mm-hmm. that your mother didn't know you had.
That she didn't know I had. I was able to forgive my mother after, 20-some years of therapy, and understand that she was a very sick, convoluted person. I saw her before she died. I told her that I thought she was very brave to get a hold of me, and she cried. There was never any open acknowledgement, but she did give me a bracelet, and when I got home, I called her to thank her, and she said, I wanted to give you something with no memories. So that means she knew there were memories.
So it was her way of
Yes.
saying, I know, we know, you know, I know, but she couldn't ever stand up and clear that with you, but that was her one way of doing that for you.
Right. That was as brave as she could be.
Yes. And you are so incredibly brave to share your story with the world. We want the world to know. Do you mind if I mention briefly your chart, just briefly?
Oh,
just
sure, go ahead.
So Nancy, very, very synchronistic. There's no mistakes in life. Nancy has a sun, moon, and rising in Scorpio, and a stellium in Scorpio, all in the first house of Aries that rules the head. They never, ever were going to be able to defeat Nancy. She carries the I am presence of Christ consciousness. And we want all the viewers to understand that we are working diligently to get her book fully in a paperback form for anybody that needs some support, who has split, who has multiple dissociative personality disorder.
And it can be applied to any trauma.
Any trauma.
Any big trauma.
Nancy, we have 8 copies right now. We would welcome you to please leave your, you can contact me at firemovements@gmail.com. I'll leave some information in the description box. And if you really feel called, Nancy is asking a very, very small amount just to cover maybe the cost. I don't know if you even wanted to donate those ones. We're working that out. But if you want a copy, please reach out to us. And then we will also have some available for sale.
Soon.
Yes, very soon. Actually, we already have 8 right now. So if this is really calling to you, please reach out. Again, it's firemovements@gmail.com. firemovements@gmail.com. And we will leave us your address and we will get in touch with you. We really just want the world to know that these things need to stop happening.
Yes.
Period.
And children need to be listened to.
Yes. There's not much more to say. Just thank you so much for being with us, for hearing Nancy, for listening diligently and staying with us till the end. Nancy, in my eyes,
thank you for listening.
She, in my eyes, is one of the most powerful woman I have ever met. And it's a true honor to know you, Nancy. Thank you for sharing your heart and your soul.
Well, thank you for helping me.
It was my honor.
Thank
Service.
you.
So thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you.